Psalm 107. Uh, it occurs to me today that Psalm 107 is, it's Israel history. And it is also like this, excuse me, recounting of Israel's rebellion and disregard for God, and God either permitting or bringing upon them the consequences of those unwise decisions, and then Israel waking up and crying out to him. We last time we finished up where the sailors encountered what's the word I'm looking for? A nearly hurricane, and they thought they were going to die, and so they cried out to God. God calmed the sea. They were saved, and then the admonition is really this is the recurring chorus. Remember, this is verse 31. Let them give thanks to the Lord for his unfailing love and his wonderful deeds for mankind. And then he says, do this in the context of the broader community, the broader gathering of the community, and then in the smaller gathering of the community. Then in verse 33 starts another cycle. He turned rivers into a desert, flowing springs into thirsty ground, and fruitful land into a salt waste because of the wickedness of those who live there. You can see this metaphorically in virtually every culture. The psalmist actually did not have every culture in mind. He had the Israelite culture, how when they, he says, because of the wickedness of those who lived there. It's not just, oops, I don't know why we did that. That was a bad choice. No. This is not just unwise decisions. This is wickedness. Boy, would it be easy for me to climb back up on my soapbox and go after our American culture because it applies. One of the difficulties with me doing that is that I can throw rocks from that soapbox. I can throw it in any direction and hit 2 or 3 things. I think it's a tough balance. I think I should be concerned about the broader culture and the wickedness, true wickedness that I see there, or that, I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, folks. I'm about 8 or 10 miles from what a lot of people consider the capital of wickedness in America, and in many ways, it is. I can't deny that lots of the stuff that happens in this city is just simply pure wicked. And yet, it's not all wicked. This city, it's not, every house on the block is not a whorehouse. Ooh, sorry, that was kind of crude, but I can't deny that wickedness abounds here. I gotta say, I don't think there's a city in America where you can't go to some part of it and that be true. Wickedness is going to always be around us. The point for me is I don't want to let it be found in me. You see, I mean, well, I fall prey to often saying all about them out there, how horrible they are. And some of them really are. But if I spend the majority of my time screaming out about them, I kind of miss a very important point. Maybe a more important point is what's in here. Okay. The metaphors here are really pretty dramatic. Turns rivers into a desert. That's a drought. Flowing springs into thirsty ground. Further drought. Fruitful land into salt waste. Now that's extreme. I think the original psalmist here might have been thinking of the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is a quite interesting geological anomaly. The salt content of the Dead Sea is incredibly high, and these days you're encouraged to not. I mean, back in the old days, people would swim, and these days the encouragement is to like 15 minutes. That's all the more you need to be in that water. I am not really sure why, but that's what the encouragement is. Here's something about the Dead Sea that I think holds a metaphor for our lives. It's fed by the Jordan River, okay? Now, the Jordan River feeds the Sea of Galilee north of the Dead Sea, and then it travels on down to the Dead Sea outlet from the Sea of Galilee. But the Dead Sea has no outlet. That water goes nowhere. It stays there. It is stagnant. You can't irrigate from it. You certainly can't drink from it. Okay. I believe that I have a choice to be either like the Sea of Galilee, which even today is full of fish and life, or the Sea of Galilee, stagnant, dead. The Sea of Galilee and the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea, they call it dead for a reason. And one of the aspects of that is, will I be a conduit of the living waters of God's grace, or will I have no outlet? It's up to me, really. Okay. This happens intellectually. It happens morally. It happens pragmatically. That when a culture is wicked, the goodness dries up, and all's left behind is death. It goes on in verse 35. He turned the desert into pools of water. Okay, so you've got the rivers that have turned into a desert because of the wickedness. But in 35, he says he turned the desert into pools of water and the parched ground into flowing springs. There he brought the hungry to live, and they found a city where they could settle. They planted fields and planted vineyards that yielded a fruitful harvest. He blessed them, and their numbers greatly increased, and he did not let their herds diminish. So what you got is God reversing the consequences of Israel's wickedness. I wish I could say, and there's a promise there for you. God promises to reverse the bad things that have happened in your life. I can't, or I won't, because I don't think that's what this is about. Well, first of all, I have to keep this in my mind at the front as I'm thinking through and trying to absorb the meaning of this psalm. This is metaphorical. Yeah, God did lead them to this really good land with pools of water and flowing springs, but this is metaphor, okay? If we're going to grasp anything in our own life from what the psalmist has written, I think we have to take it that way. This is symbolic. God can and does restore and bring life from what was devastated and parched and desert. Does he always do that? That's not the implication here. Is it? I don't think it is. When I lay this word picture out against my own life and the stories of others' lives who I know, it doesn't quite match that everything's gonna be just like, the world's gonna be like Disneyland. No, I don't get that. I do have to look back at my own life and realize that out of what at the time felt like the most desperate situations and the driest, the most hurtful and sorrowful times in my life, God eventually brought goodness and love, his grace. But it was not like, oh, God flips the switch and what was crummy now becomes wonderful. I don't see that, okay? And I don't, in some ways, that's kind of frustrating. I kind of want to say to God, come on, you are capable of making this bad stuff go away. So do it, would you? Well, I don't even think it happened in that way for what the psalmist is talking about here in terms of Jewish history. Well, out of the drought of wickedness, God brought life. In verse 38, he says, he blessed them and their numbers greatly increased, and he did not let their herds diminish. These are terms for prosperity and riches, as well as well-being for the Hebrew. And that's what happened. God brought good out of bad. He's still in the business of doing that, but not very often like that. More often, in my life, more like this. Not sure what to do with that. And besides, I'm not the best teacher for what to do with that. The Holy Spirit is. So I'm going to let him teach us, guide us. What do I do with this? And I'll see you next time on So Care with Stevie Boy.